Hello, good evening, and welcome to our Monday special town hall coming to you live from Daystar University. On this Monday, we are discussing, yes, you guessed it, the gender bill that is currently before Parliament, due for a vote on Wednesday. And tonight, I am the only representative of the male species in this room, and we are going to have a big conversation here. We have wonderful ladies, and I'm going to be introducing my panel in just a moment, but I also have my colleague Mashirima Kapombe with me, who's going to give us an idea of who else is in the audience tonight. Mashirima.
Na mjo, ukisema kuwa wewe ndo mwanamume peke yako katika chumba hiki, basi inaonekana ni kana kwamba ile dhana kuwa wanawake ni wengi zaidi kuliko wanaume inaonekana kidogo wengine wataiamini, lakini kulingana na sensa ya mwaka 2009 ndio wanawake ni wengi, lakini kwa idadi ndogo sana, takriban zaidi ya 225. Lakini naona wale ambao wako nao hapo jukwaani watakuwa wanaeleza ni kwa nini mswada huu una umuhimu kwa wanawake. Jo.
All right, thank you very much. And let me just go ahead and introduce the panel here. Right next to me, Susan Kihika, Senator for Nakuru, one of the only 3 elected in the 12th Parliament, but also she is the Majority Chief Whip in the Senate, as well as the President of the Interparliamentary Union Forum of Women Parliamentarians. A very long title. I hope I got it right. Next to her is the Chairperson of KEWOPA, Kenya Women Parliamentary Association, but also Kirinyaga Woman Rep. Next, Teresa Omondi, who is Executive Director of FIDA. We have Millie Odhiambo. I used to know Mbita, but now it's Suva North constituency, Member of Parliament, and Priscilla Nyokabi, a former Member of Parliament, Nyeri County, former woman rep there. Thank you very much, ladies, for joining us for this very interesting conversation tonight, with just 2 days before that vote in Parliament. And I'll start with you because you're next to me, Mheshimiwa Kihika. Are we going to make progress this time around? What's your sense?
I'm truly convinced and hopeful that this time around the bill will pass. We've done quite a bit of lobbying, but also the members seem they seem to be very supportive this time around. So I do hope that this will be the time where we are able to get the bill successfully passed.
Supportive, you say. I want us to listen to just a few Kenyans here before we go on with this conversation, and let's just hear what some of the Kenyans out there have been saying about this.
Viongozi wamekuwa ni wengi. Kenya ni miongoni mwa mataifa ambazo zimekuwa overrepresented.
We are interested in having a two-thirds gender rule being observed. It is better when it's observed through election. And in election, women should be empowered. And those are the kind of women who should be empowered, those who have vied.
Sikubaliani nayo kwa sababu naona ni bill ambayo inataka kupea watu fulani tu kazi za bure, badala waende kwa wananchi waweze kuomba kura. Kuna watu ambao wanatarajia tu kupewa hizo kazi, sana sana wa kina mama fulani ambao si hata zile wale mama ambao wana deserve. Hii wakati itakuwa tayari, kuna wale wanajulikana kwa vyama, wale wanajuana na kiongozi wa chama, ndio watakuwa wanapewa hiyo.
Mimi naona hii ni kazi bure. Hata wenye wamechaguliwa kwa assembly, maneno yao ni kurara, ni vita, hakuna kitu yenye wanaongeza, ni gharama wanaletea wananchi.
Kina mama kama wanataka ate wagoa nominated, warudishe kitambulisho, tukae kila mtu bila kitambulisho, wakae bila vitambulisho ndio wagoa nominated. Lakini ikiwa wako na kitambulisho, tuingieni kwa tebe. Mambo ya bure hakuna.
Ni vizuri wanawake waingie katika ndebe, wajipigania wao wenyewe, wapate viti kama wale ambao tumeona huko, kama gavana wa Kitui amejipigania, Waiguru bado amejipigania, amepata kiti.
Those people who are speaking, they're actually Kenyans. They're not from another country, and they have interesting views. And you are saying supportive. Yes, obviously there are a lot of people out there who also support. But what do you think when you hear views of that sort coming from Kenyans?
I think it goes to really show why this is extremely important, because you can listen to those that we've had talk and sort of see how they view women when they say that those that we have already sent there whether elected or nominated, kazi yao sijui ni nini na nini, whatever it is that they're talking. So you can see that already we don't have a fair playing field between the men and the women of this country. Yet the constitution is there. It's very clear that we need to be in line with the constitution as it stands right now. So they passed the constitution. It says no more than 2/3 of the same gender. So what we are saying is then that we must do what is necessary to make sure that we implement that.
Okay, great. Mheshimiwa Mili, she says the constitution is clear. It has been clear for the last 8 years. Why are we not getting this right?
Well, we are not getting it right because the constitution, as you've said, is clear about the principle. That we provided for the principle of 2/3. But you can see the way we provided the formula for realizing that 2/3 was defective when it came to the issue of representation at the National Assembly and the Senate because of the spirit of give and take. I was one of the delegates at Naivasha, and we actually provided the numbers that was necessary to provide the 2/3 or 1/3, depending on which side you look at it. But because the male members who are there then primarily said that it would be a shocker to suddenly have from 20 to 147 for 40 something, I can't remember. I think it was 160 something. So they said, why don't we do it incrementally? So they said, let's have 47 this time. The next parliament we increased it to 20 and, add a little as we go on. But unfortunately, we added 47. And in the last parliament, they were not willing to add even one more. And so we are stuck. And we have a constitution that is therefore kind of appearing to contradict itself because it's very strong on the principle of inclusion of 1/3 of either gender. And if you look at, for instance, a county like Muranga, God willing, in about a year, the next elections, if they were to everything being equal and they only elect one more woman, then the male gender in that county will require affirmative action because the women will be more. So when we talk about gender, it's not a women thing. It is about a situation where you create a balance where one gender is way ahead of the other. If you look at Rwanda for historical and other reasons, now there are more women represented than men. It is still not too bad because it's not gone beyond, like in Kenya, we are below, the 30% that has been agreed in Africa and the rest of the world. They are, the men are still at a good, figure. But what if men go below that? Then Rwanda will have to provide affirmative action for men. So
for tonight, I would not like us to end this show without getting an idea of where we rest this debate, hopefully once and for all. And there are many issues that have been raised by the people who are speaking on that clip, but also by a lot of people who have opposed this. And I think tonight it would be a good opportunity to lay those matters to rest if we can. One of the issues that I hear people raise there is, why can't women go out there and just get elected? Let me start with you, Mheshimiwa Ngerich.
Thank you very much, Joe. I think it is very important for us as Kenyans to appreciate the fact that we're coming from a society that has been patriarchal by nature since a long time ago, and our upbringing is completely favorable to the man, the boy child. So having said that, I believe it's time now that when women have been given a chance to even speak to the inclusion of women, that we also have male colleagues and male citizens who listen to us. So I believe it is time for women to also be given a chance to come out and speak towards these 2/3 and the inclusion of women. Talking about that, Joe, if today you had one girl from somewhere in, say for example in Bita, coming and who never thought that she would be in parliament one day, I think if we create space for these people, if we create space and even put regulations that will restrict maybe a certain number of years for the girl or the woman or the youth that has been
So as things stand
nominated.
now, what are the 1, 2, 3, 4 things that make it so difficult for women to get elected? Because some people would say, well, Mheshimiwa Priscilla has been elected before, Amelie is in parliament right now, you were elected. So what are those things that prevent more women from being elected? Because people need to understand that.
Joe, as I'm telling you, if you look at even the people that previously have been nominated, I believe Kenya would not have experienced a president like Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta right now. He is a product of nomination. We Kenyans would not have experienced certain members, probably even in the judiciary, like Joe Kindungu, who was given a springboard to come and to be in parliament, legislate, and realize her potential. And right now she is in the Supreme Court of Kenya. Even over and above all that, I believe every member of the National Assembly has their duty to come and protect and uphold the Constitution, as we saw the first day we sat there.
What I'm asking is, what do you have that those other women don't have? Because you got elected, right?
Well, Joe, we were elected. We took ourselves to the electorate and were elected. But at the same time, there is that one person that probably has not been able to unleash their potential because of their upbringing. Look, I'll give you a case example, like in Kisii. They have never elected a woman. So how will you expect a woman to bring herself out there and they elect her? Unless we nominate from Kisii, and then they will see the potential of the woman, and then they will give that woman a chance to be elected.
Mheshimiwa Priscilla, do you want to explain as clearly as you possibly can why getting elected women in parliament is such a difficult thing in Kenya? Tonight is the night.
It is very difficult, and I like what you're saying. Tonight is the night. And just coming back to your 4 reasons, one is the very confused political system that we are under. We don't have a political party that survives one election. We have parties that are formed for each election that we go into, and politics that are tribal. This tribe and that tribe, they emerge. And tribal politics are not favorable to women. So that has been one very, very complex
let me understand that. Why is it not favorable to women?
I mean, if the dominant communities
speak in mother tongue at political rallies and say it is our turn.
And we will, but because what has happened with women progress in other countries, for example, the ANC in South Africa, is because the ANC is long term. So then it is able to come up with policies and programs that support inclusion of women. Our parties are not long-term in nature. Our parties are 2 communities coming together just for the purposes. Our vehicles are temporary vehicles. Our parties actually are vehicles. You get into the vehicle, it crosses you the election, you decide what to do with that vehicle. So at the point of forming the vehicle, women are not at that table. The other thing that has made our politics very complex is money. We are in a country where politicians are judged not by what they do, but by how much money they give. And so that again has made it very difficult for women. And it's so difficult for us to dish money we have manifestos. Many women come with a manifesto. I will do water, I will do health, I will do education. The population tells you wachana na manifesto. Tuangalie sahi. Unatuachaje hapa? Manifesto utafanya baadaye. I mean, so now that also makes it very difficult. The third one is also that
so the men have more money than the women,
and also more access for corruption, and more all the manner of wrong things. Again,
I'm sure the latest NYS saga might challenge that. But
let me go to the third one.
NYS will not challenge that.
In terms of
percentage, even in corruption, we are not 1/3. I can tell you.
But let me add something just before we leave that topic.
I see where you're going with
on the numbers. Okay. No, just on the numbers.
Yes.
Because yes. Susan Kihika is here. So Susan is one of 3 senators elected at the Senate. That is 6% of women elected. So the people who are telling us go to the election are not being honest. A lot of women contested. Only 6% of women were elected. The seat that Millie is on, it has 23 women elected as constituency MPs of 290. 23 of 290, 7%. So that this election isn't the only way in which we can get women, and yet we need the talent of both men and women for the country to move forward. So nomination becomes the only option for us as far as the country is concerned. But as we make progress, Millie was nominated once, contested in the next election. Susan was a speaker, contested. So you are nominated once, and that is what the bill says. You can only be nominated a maximum of 2 times, and then you have to get the courage to be able to contest. But this nomination is not something we are seeking in vain. Is a historical problem.
All right, let's go to FIDA, because you are not a member of parliament. You've been dealing with very many different types of women there. What do you hear? What is the problem? Why do we have only 23 women elected in the National Assembly, for example, from your assessment?
I don't know, Joy, you're facing this side. I don't know if the camera was also showing you the people who are speaking. You see the dissent they have on their faces, even as they mention mwanamke akitaka aende ndani ya debe. You know, there's so much despise for the female fraternity by, you know, the male fraternity. And
I noticed a woman there who also wasn't very excited about this.
She was actually talking about the 2/3 and thinking why it should come in as a law. If I got her right, she actually did not have a condescending opinion to it. So we start from there, and that's the patriarchy that Honorable Ngirishi was talking about, patriarchal nature of our society.
Let me push you a little bit on that, because I think if we are not going to explain this clearly, there might be people who will still live here with the same views there. There are more women in this country than men, true or false?
True.
So why is that? Let's just break it down simply so that people understand. Why can't they just vote for one of their own? They are more than men, and you understand what I'm saying.
Let me start with where I come from, my county. I can tell you of many women who before the elections they are told who you will vote. I am the head of this house. I decide where we are going to vote. And the way it is said, you think he will even see you at the voting booth. And that's how we've been brought up. Kila mtu anaenda, lakini you know the way even your mother brought you up and he would say nikupate. Even if she's not there, you assume she's there and she's seeing you. So the men do that. They say in this county, this is the person we are voting for because he was my classmate, he's my friend, and so this is where we are going. And for some, they even carry your identity card up to the polling station. So that fear that is instilled in you, you imagine that he even saw where you ticked. Very few brave women are able to actually defy that and tick the person they want to.
All right.
So let's start from that, please.
Joe, I think I want to add something.
While at it, please tell us how you get yourself elected in the midst of all of this.
Yes, I will tell you how I get myself elected, but I think at the lower level, many women will not be willing to get into elections because of violence. Our terrain in elections is very violent. You will be beaten, you will be undressed, you will be called malaya, you will be called all manner of things. Many of us grow up either in the mosques or in church. A lot of women are fairly very religious, and we are taught from childhood, even if you see the names that we are given, sweetie, mommy, baby, the men, they are called jogo. What are we being done? We are being groomed to be sweetie, baby. They are being groomed to be jogos, to be leaders. So from childhood, they are being groomed to be leaders. Me, I'm being groomed to cook in the kitchen and do such things. Then, so when I want to come into leadership, the men are wondering, who the hell are you? Why are you coming here? This is my domain. I'm glad we are doing this when we are marking the 16 days of activism on gender-based violence. One of the things that we are marking on these days is an engineering student in Canada walked into a class and said, how can there be women doing engineering? Shot and killed 14 women. Because that is the mind frame that we are dealing with. And when you come into a domain that is predominantly male, the men will not agree. They will not allow. In fact, the Bible says, the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence. And the violent ones, they take it by force. Men want to take everything by force.
I asked you how you get elected. In the midst of, after being called sweetie and baby and all these things, you still got elected.
Yeah, because for you to be elected, you must stop being sweetie baby and you become an ogre. How many women want to become August?
Okay,
How many women want to become wildcats?
You give us that formula
no
before
women
this.
want to become wildcats.
You give us that formula before this show ends. But let me go to the floor. My colleague Mashirima is there. I don't know what is the general sentiment there.
Wengi hapa wanaunga mkono masuala hayo ya kupitisha huo mswada, lakini wengine wanapinga. Wacha nianze na Malasen Hamida.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I'm Malasen Hamida, community leader, Kibra constituency. The issue of 2/3 gender rule is not a women rights issue. It is a human rights issue. My beloved MPs, why don't you harmonize Article 27 under the Bill of Rights, Article 81 under representation, and then Article 177 under devolution, to make it more relevant and more for everyone to see the importance of this bill, because it is a constitutional issue. Thank you.
Ndani yake ilikuwa kauli tu, lakini Lucy Mwangi yeye anapinga kabisa kupitishwa kwa mswada huu.
Mimi naitwa Lucy Daisy Mwangi. Mimi ni mwanasiasa chipukizi kutoka Kirinyaga County. Na mimi napinga, kwanza kabla sijasema kwa nini napinga, mkiangalia mambo ambayo wakubwa wetu mmesema, yote ni shida ambazo zinatukumba sisi kama wanawake. Kwa nini tusingangane na hizi shida tuweze kuzitatua badala tuombe kuchaguliwa? Pili, mimi nahisi ya kwamba kwa sasa we are very empowered. We are empowered. The only thing that we are supposed to do is to make sure that election is free and fair for a woman. Na ikiwa hivyo, nawaambia kinagaubaga, wanawake tutachaguliwa kabisa. Hizo shida tukizitatua, tutachaguliwa. Hatuna haja tupewe woye tupatieni viti, hata nyinyi simlichaguliwa.
Nyinyi simlichaguliwa? Mbona mnataka kupatiwa nafasi?
Haya, wacha nianzie Kirinyaga basi. Wewe si ulichaguliwa?
Hapo ni kweli. Lakini pia ndio tunasema the highest percentage of women are the ones that are not empowered in the rural areas. And that is why even we are trying up to today to bring down the empowerment to the level of where the women can be reached. Now that we are a little bit behind, I would say world over, although Kenya also is among the most behind, the ones that are highly behind, more behind than others in the empowerment of women. That is why we have put a sunset clause where it's going to take place for only 20 years, which we believe we may not even need the 20 years. Maybe by the 20 years we shall be empowering the boy child. I think that is what I believe right now. And even I will tell you, now that I know Lucy Daisy is from Kirinyaga and she's from the university, technical university, I would like to ask her how many girls were elected during the elections at the university. She was one of the ones that were running, but the boys ran them over because they can do politics at night. Actually, I would say some of us women were very lucky because because coming from a background of the church, we were able to be supported by the church. I used to close my campaigns at 6 o'clock every day because I did not want to get involved with the violence. When men actually start their campaigns at 6 p.m. Which woman will go at 6 p.m.? Like Honorable Millie said earlier, women will not be able to go and campaign at night. Women will not be able to crisscross in bars in campaigning. We want to sell manifesto. We want to sell what we are going to do for our people. But there are those people that know we don't have to sell anything. What we have to sell is buy a few drinks and I'm good to go.
Senator Kihika, Hamida talks about harmonizing Article 27, which I think is about equal treatment of women and men. 177 talking about the, I think, county assembly with all the formula that they have down there on representation and all that. What do you tell her? This is not just about women.
Sure.
Her point seems to be that the members of parliament who are seated here and many more have framed this as a women's issue.
In fact, she's absolutely right that it's not a woman's issue, but really a human rights issue. Because with the exclusion of women at the table, then really it is a human rights issue, or rather of any gender. But I think the reason that sometimes it comes out as a woman's issue is more because of the perception that our people have, or that we have in general. And I would go back to what we just watched on the TV, that kind of sort of frames this issue as, okay, you are women, you just want to be given, go compete fairly with the men, while we know that for a fact the playing field is not equal. It is not fair. We begin from very far back as we try to walk this journey. I know you've very well stated that women should go in there and sort of solve the issues and move forward. It's not sometimes as easy as that. And one of the reasons is, like one of the other panelists said, Honorable Nyokabi, is even when we begin to run for these seats, not as many women offer themselves to run because they don't want to be put in that mix of the violence that we experience. The kind of names, and we talked a little bit about that before the show, the kind of madness that we experience as women. So it takes really brave souls to be able to do it. And it shouldn't be like that. I don't think it necessarily takes the most brave men to run for these seats. Any man can run because they don't experience the sort of shaming that we experience. When it's women, it's okay, you're a prostitute, or you can't keep a husband, you're slave queens, or whatever. We don't get the same, the men don't get the same. So coming from that background, then it's sort of a very, very uneven playing field. However, you talked a bit about like Article 177. The good thing about what we have right now is at the county assembly level, it is already implemented. You cannot convene or swear them in without the nominated women having been put in place, so that the numbers are no more than 2/3 of one gender. So that's already been done. So the place lacking this implementation is at the National Assembly level as well as at the Senate level, which we are working on, and that's what we are moving to correct in the coming Tuesday.
We'll get to the rest of the panel in a moment.
Slave queens to slay their way into the National Assembly, to massage their way into the Senate, and slay their way into County Assembly, Honorable Speaker, then I do have some reservation.
When I hear members talking about slay queens, I would like to ask nominee number 001, now that he's a nominated member, can he tell this House whether he's a slay king? And which favors did he give to his political party to nominate him?
I know for a fact that women suffer in the hands of party leaders, the chairman of the parties, the secretary generals of the parties. And I know for a fact, the Speaker, and I have evidence that there is a secretary general of a party who nominated himself, his mother-in-law.
Kwa sababu mama ndio jamii. Bila mama watoto hawawezi kuenda shuleni kwa sababu wazee wanapata pesa yao nyingi wanapitia kwa baa, lakini sisi mama tukipata pesa yote tunaleta nyumbani.
In case you want a help, a mother can be of a help more than a father.
My community, where I come from, the region I come from, the northeastern part of Kenya, will not elect women. The number required of women cannot be elected by the community.
Akienda bunge ataweza sasa endeleza ndio tupate faida kwa manyumba hapa kwa nini masinani.
This country has a promise, and our promise is to promote equal representative for all gender, and most importantly to make sure that we uplift the status of women so that they can be equally represented at the policy making instruments.
Ni baadhi ya kauli tu kutoka wananchi kutoka kaunti mbalimbali, kaunti za Kisii, kaunti ya Trans Nzoia na kaunti nyingine kidogo, kaunti ya Garissa Konradhi. Wao wanaunga mkono, wanatoa tu maelezo ya kwa nini wanaunga mkono mswada huu kupitishwa, lakini Susan Nekesa ana kauli tofauti.
Evening, I'm Susan Nekesa from Nairobi County, Daystar University, and I oppose the bill. Why? Because leadership is not about the masculine or the feminine. It's all about performance. If those who are already in parliament are not performing, then why pass the bill?
Thank you. Kuna Salama naye ana swali upande huu, nadhani yeye anaunga mkono mswada huu.
Okay, good evening. I'm Salama Mohammed from Kibra constituency, and my question is, how do we compare Kenya with other country on gender rule? Thank you.
Huyu ambaye uko karibu nawe pia alikuwa na swali.
Good evening. I'm Yasmin Yusuf from Kibra community. I come from a community whereby it caters for women empowerment. An organization which I work for, SHOFCO, Shining Hope for Communities, has a school for girls where it empowers girls. So I believe if women are given the chance, yeah, they'll go get it. Thank you.
Tuanze na hilo swali la kwanza. Kuwa leadership is about performance. It's not about gender. Kama kuna wale ambao hawafanyi kazi inavyostahili, kwa nini wapatiwe nafasi nyingine? Nani ataanza?
Honorable Millie.
Yes, I will start. And I'm very glad that Susan has said that, because there are certain myths about women, and unfortunately, normally the perpetrators of those myths use us as women to perpetrate that. Can you believe that the best performing people in that parliament are women MPs? And you are saying that how come they are not performing? I am one of the ones who has brought the highest numbers, speaking for myself, the highest numbers of bills, more than the men. Priscilla Nyokabi, when she was there, she brought many bills in that house, more than men. I can tell you, all the men, you've seen Honorable Kihika, we perform excellent work. But what are you told? You are told that the women should not be there because they do not perform. When you watch budget, who are the people who are shown as sleeping? The men. But then it is, you are told it is the women. We internalize negative stories about ourselves, and then we believe that we cannot, because we've been told the same story that you've been told your position is in the kitchen. And you internalize it and you say, you go and perform first. Yes, leadership is about performance, but let it also be factual. Once you are elected, we must perform. There are no two ways about it.
But Mheshimiwa, I think there's a larger question there about which women, because at the end of the day, it is not just about having women in parliament, isn't it? So the whole question of what kind of women then, even if it is nomination, someone is saying, oh yeah, I don't know how true, but Mheshimiwa Didma said, well, there's somebody who nominated the mother-in-law and I don't know who. So there's that whole question of which women get nominated,
Can I respond? I know I was first responding to Susan, because I know that usually, even me when I was younger, I used to argue and reason the same way, because that's how I was conditioned. That is how I was brought up to believe that women are non-performers, that when they are brought to parliament, they will slay. I have not slayed. The only thing I've slayed is bill upon bill upon bill. I have slayed the bills thoroughly. But having said that, the other thing I can tell you is that why do we provide a different standard for women than men? The honorable member who is saying that how did the women slay their way, is a member with a disability. How did he slay his way? I was telling him jokingly another day when we were walking with him that actually the person who slayed is you, because of the way you walk. He slays. So he's actually the one who slayed his way, not the women. Let us not provide different standards for women than for men. How come we do not put the men under a microscope? If people slept, them who did they sleep with? Did they sleep with their party leaders? Because now we also know they are gays. So if their party leader is a man, maybe they also slept with the men. Let us not provide different standards for women than for men. And if we think we want to stop bad practices, we can do it by law. Because then you are presuming that every woman who has come here has slept by someone. I was nominated. I did not sleep to get there. If I was sleeping, I would still be sleeping until now. But what I'm saying is that we have been, after that, I have gone ahead and I have competed with men and I have been elected. That is proof enough that there was no sleeping involved. My dear sister came on an affirmative action seat, even though she didn't make it, but she left a mark. My dear sister here has also come on an affirmative action seat. She got an opportunity to serve in the county first. It is because we got those platforms that we are able then to move to the next level. So I don't think it is actually right for people to put a higher standard on women than they put for men.
Allow me just to say one thing to Susan, because Susan have said that the women don't perform. I want to give her examples of women that were nominated, and today they are sitting in parliament elected. One is Millie sitting right here. We respect her very much. We also have Sarah Korere, who was nominated and later was elected in the Samburu area where they don't even elect women. They ended up electing her, the Samburus. We have Leshomo, Honorable Leshomo. She was brought in by the former president Kibaki. Now she's sitting in parliament, elected twice. We have Lesuda. She was nominated last time. She's now sitting in parliament, elected. We have even Wangari, Sophia Abdi, all of them. Actually, Sophia Abdi, there has never been a woman who was elected amongst her community. We saw somebody from her community talk about it here. So Sophia has been one of the people who has broken the glass ceilings. But why? Simply because she was given a chance that catapulted her to become what she is today. So I think it is very important for even our young people also, even Google and find out, do women work? Look at the bills that have been passed by women. Look at how many legislative, the legislation that women have done. It is so much, I cannot name it here. We will go the whole night if I have to.
Okay, please help I think her name is Salama, who was trying to get a comparison. That should be simple.
Let me take that.
Yes.
Isn't it true that the question on where we are at in Africa and East Africa is not the best? In Africa, we are position number 26 in election of women, or in the numbers of women in the houses of representation. And Kenya is one of the leading economies in Africa. It is South Africa, it is Nigeria, it is Egypt, it is Kenya. We are economy number 4, one of the highest performing economies. Technology, we are number 1. Education, we have a good position. But on gender equality, we are number 26. In East Africa, even South Sudan, the newest country in Africa, has beaten us on the numbers of women that they have in parliament. In East Africa, we are last. Ethiopia is ahead of us. Tanzania and Uganda, who have the same complexities as us, are ahead of us. Somalia is ahead of us. In East Africa, we are the last, despite being the biggest economy in East Africa, but we are the last in terms of gender equality. So we need to do something about that position. And what we are saying, because of the difficulties of women in getting into election, nomination allows us to tap the talent of those women in leadership. And it is not a permanent situation. Once you're nominated once, you then now can be able to pursue the election. And even questions of free party elections and fight against corruption, we need both men and women to confront the challenges of our country. It can't be men who will deliver to us a free and fair election. We must all be in there trying to find a free and fair election for our country. Let me end with affirmative action generally. Kenya is a country. United States is a country. When we go to the UN system, Kenya asks for affirmative action because we cannot be compared at the same place with the United States. And that is how it works internationally, that those who are behind are given a head start, which is what we call affirmative action, so that they can then match with the others. So if Kenya itself asks for affirmative action in the international states, we don't say Kenya is a country and the US is a country. But when we come here, we want to say that men and women are equal at a time when it is not true. There are many rights that men are born with, including in my own community. The mothers are not called mothers of daughters until very late. The Kikuyu community, those who come from Nyeri. Nyina Shiro is a very recent introduction. It is Nyina Kimani, Nyina Mwagi, Nyina Masharia. Even if Masharia is fifth born, you have 4 girls ahead, but you won't have a name until Masharia comes.
Is there one more question?
Dogo, kwanza kuna baadhi ya jumbe ambazo zimeingia. Kuna wale wanaume ambao wanahisi ni kama wanataka kuwa kushirikishwa katika mjadala huu. Victor Kosgei anasema, as a person who wants to transform lives of people through representation, one need not be ashamed of names and language. The nature of politics in Kenya is dirty. Mwingine hapa Kinuthia Njoroge anasema, if you want to play Kenyan politics, then you must get yourself prepared for the pain that accompanies it. Unfortunately, that's a price to be paid. Like for instance, kuna wale ambao wanasema mtu fulani ni fisadi, atakosa kusimama kwa sababu ya hilo. Lakini kuna Dafin hapa, kidogo awali alikuwa na moto kweli, kwa na jambo la kusema.
My name is Delphine Kithuko. I come from Kirinyaga County. Let me begin by saying that I'm really impressed I'm actually construed by Obama's logic when he says it is unfair to have half of the team not playing. And earlier on, I did put an emphasis that that gender bill is really not about women. It is about creating a level field. And I made it clear that should the next election, we have women outnumber men, we will nominate men to the parliament. It's really not a thing about women. And my last point, it should go down to what restrictions are you making to ensure that what happens if the bill do not pass? Because I feel we have to keep the promise of the world to ensure that we pass the gender bill. We're very intentional about it. Ensure the Maraga, if the bill doesn't pass, as Mutai says, dissolve the parliament, kila mtende kwa ballot, let that bill pass.
Dissolve parliament kweli? Labda hilo swali lijibiwe kwanza. Maka amesema mtafanyaje?
Let me go to you, Teresa, because you're not in parliament, so maybe you might give me a different answer from, I mean, that possibility of sending Mheshimiwa Mili and all of them home and just...
Okay.
Because they're part of that house that is not giving us a 2/3 gender balance.
I think they're working very hard, and I want to first start from the point of we hope Wednesday it's going to be the day that Kenyans just gain their sanity and decide this is where we want to go. However, the question of if it doesn't pass, what will happen? I think we've been in court. We still will stay in court. I mean, women are also quite peaceful people. We'll want to use the most appropriate means to still get what is ours and what is our right. And as if we speak, FIDA Kenya, CRU, and other organizations are already in court. And the courts have actually hold the proceedings. They're like, okay, Parliament is discussing a certain bill here. Let's see how it goes. So we are back in court on the 8th of December. So hopefully, I'm sure this Parliament does not want us to be back in court on 8th of December. We should, on 8th of December, go and the judge says, voila, you now have what you want. The case is no more. However, the question then would be, then if the High Court does not pass, because we've had other decisions in the High Court, this is going to be the 5th decision if we get it. We will again follow the process. Court of Appeal is there. We'll go up to the Supreme Court, which anyway had already pronounced itself way back and said 2015 was the year to be, but the law was still not passed. And if we don't, we'll go as far as even the African Court. I mean, the world is watching. And if we are number 26, we are number last in the East Africa, we'll even approach the East African Court. As FIDA Kenya, we are ready. This time we are ready to go as far as we can.
All right, welcome back to Monday's special town hall, coming to you live here on Citizen TV from Daystar University, and we are discussing the gender bill that is currently before Parliament. And ladies, before we went on that break, there were many questions that had been asked, but I promised to talk about this bill. And I had some lawyers say that the Mativo decision was for this law to be implemented in 60 days, if I remember, and he even said that, you know, it amounted to a violation of women's rights, and because at the moment we're dealing with the shortage of women in the house and all that. But now we have a proposed law that essentially defers the implementation of this to 2022. Okay, because if this thing passes on Wednesday, those new women that will nominate will not come tomorrow, if I understood it correctly. And that secondly, even if we were to pass the bill and you did a total count of all the members of Parliament going by the current numbers, you would still have fewer women than 1/3 of the entire membership of the House. So what problem, what question is this bill trying to answer? And I start with the nearest lawyer that I can find.
Sure. You're right. We are at a stage in time in the process where we are actually staring down at that there could be a chance where Parliament could be dissolved, and that is both the National Assembly as well as the Senate. And the reason being, as we said, the Constitution on the principle of the 2/3 gender rule is very clear. And as we stand today,
the parliament, meaning both the National Assembly as well as the Senate, have not been able to meet that threshold. That is why we now have what we are calling the Duale Bill that will be voted on, hopefully on Wednesday of this week. And the reason for that is to cure this issue. In the amendment, it's a constitutional amendment. In that bill, the implementation will not happen right now, but when the next parliament comes into place in 2022. And as we stand right now, the National Assembly is short of about 22 women, not about, but 22 women. And the Senate is 2 women. So we could even...
But that's only if you look at the elected members of parliament. The total membership of the National Assembly is 349. And if you do the math, it's 117 women if you were to meet the 1/3. So in a sense, we are saying that even with this bill passing on Wednesday, assuming it does, someone could still petition the CJ and President and say, well, dissolve this parliament is still short of the 1/3 that we need.
No, what we are saying, in the spirit of give and take, instead of basing the 1/3 number based on the total membership, we are really, in the National Assembly, we are going to base it on the because we are also amending that part of the Constitution, so that we would be basing it on the 290 constituency seats. Because those are the only seats where technically those elected are either 1/3 or 2/3 or whatever, or less or more. So in the National Assembly, we would only be basing it on the 290, so that we also don't have an extremely large number of women to be nominated, which then goes back to the issue of the public wage. In the Senate, we would not be basing it on the 67, which is the current membership, but on the 47, because for each senator, there is one county, which is 47 counties. And the extra to make it 67 are generally women, other than 2. So we are not going to be basing it on the total membership, but on those elective constituencies, meaning the counties or the constituencies in the National Assembly.
But that will have to wait for 2022.
True, and it in that amendment, in that Duale Bill, that is included there. We would be amending those numbers so that we are starting off at 290 and at 47.
Yes, Joe, I realized that you talked about the 349. I don't know whether as much as you're talking about 1/3, you're forgetting that there are 23 elected women, and 47 is an affirmative seat. There's no way you can put an affirmative seat on another affirmative seat. So that is why you deduct the 47,
I understand that
you deduct the 23.
But the plain reading of Article 81 seems to suggest to me that if you counted 1, 2, 3, all the members of that house, that 1/3 of them should be of the other gender, at least 1/3.
Well, Joe, the Article 81, is it A? The one that talked about the 349, but the elective seats, which ones are they?
It talks about elective bodies, and I imagine that is Parliament, isn't it? Please, someone help me here on the panel as well. Honorable Odhiambo, maybe you could weigh in on this.
Well, what I can say is that there are some points that we will have to leave for interpretation for the Supreme Court. Why? Because it's something that we've gone back and forth as lawyers, that when we're talking about affirmative action and original parliament that is constituted of, what we call the single constituencies, where men fight out with women or men against men, but mainly it's free for all. The free for all seats are 290. So assuming we didn't have the 47, it means once these 290 are elected, then you'd be saying what is the number that is needed to get the 1/3 of women. That is the approach we have taken. And if we took that, then we'd be saying we have put 47 plus another 22 will make it 1/3. But when we wait and add 47, that is an affirmative action seat, then we might actually be adding this number ad infinitum. And that is why we said that if we pick 290, I know we are even disagreed with some people on this, because there are people who want to go on the bigger number. But I think this is for us as a start. It will be good if we go by the 290 and then leave it for interpretation for the Supreme Court. Okay. But at the very beginning, really, 290 is the single constituencies that we know of that are gazetted, and the 47 were brought in to cure the anomaly.
Then let me combine your response to some questions that are coming from the floor right now.
Kabla ya kwenda kwa maswali kutoka hapa, kuna mmoja ambaye ametuma ujumbe katika mtandao wa Twitter. Swali lake linaelekezwa kwa wakili Nyokabi. Anasema, we are not comparing ourselves with East African countries on this issue. We are already overrepresented. If they need more nominations, let them pass a legislation to bring down the number of constituencies, counties and wards. Several people who've raised this issue about the wage bill. Is there any way of implementing this 2/3 gender rule without making the wage bill go up?
And Teresia, you'll also respond to it after.
The first one on the bill itself. Remember, this is Duale 2. We already had Duale 1, which was 2/3 of 349, and it didn't pass through the House. So that's criticism around the numbers and why you're putting affirmative action on affirmative action is what led us to Duale 2. So this is the second attempt. So there has to be changes from Duale 1, which already didn't get the vote, to Duale 2. So that's why, and the change really can be explained even at Supreme Court. But the numbers will then be done after the election. Even the question of when to start is a question I think the judges are going to have an opinion on. Justice Mativo or any other judge can then have an opinion. Do we continue with the House that is unconstitutional when a mechanism around it has been passed? But those are questions for the court. On the question of East Africa and why we compare ourselves, it is not only in the basis of gender equality. Countries are competing for development. We are competing with Rwanda for foreign direct investment, cost of doing business. So it's many competitions that we are involved in. In football, for example, everybody wants our country to be out there on matters of gender equality. We don't want to be the last in the region, and there are many other.
But their point is that we shouldn't compare with them because we are overrepresented, and they seem to have the right number of MPs.
But the overrepresentation, and that's a question around our transformative constitution. The constitution itself wanted everybody at the table. Remember, we are a country that had post-election violence, and post-election violence was the reason of exclusion, that we were excluding too many other people, minorities, persons with disability, young people. So the fight that we have now is not just gender equality, it's actually a fight for inclusion on many fronts. Minorities, and I like the question that Adalia came in on, minorities, persons, the youth, and there will be other legislations after this that are going to then bring in the numbers of young people and all others. And then the last one also on the wage bill. The cost for this implementation is only 282 million. Per capita, it's coming to 6 shillings per citizen. What we are not accounting for in NYS, not accounting for in elections, not accounting for in education, 282 million will only add, it won't even add 0.1% of the parliamentary budget. The parliamentary budget is 1.5.
That's only because right now we know the number that is elected. Next time it might be only 6.
Even then, we won't go beyond what is already provided for parliament, because parliament is already 1.5%. So it's going to stay round around what we already are providing for representation.
Great. Teresia.
I think many studies have been done, you know, to confirm this. Our Institute of Economic Affairs did a study and confirmed how much Kenyans would spend if we added more women in parliament. Because now we are talking about if we added more women today, because it's women we need to add. Tomorrow it might be men we need to add. So studies have been done.
Yeah, it's already feeling very lonely here. So
yes, it's already, exactly. So time will come when the tables can change. But I think we should stick on the principle. All we are saying is that not more than 2/3 of any elected or appointed body should have more than, 2/3 of the same gender. So if today Kenyans agree that we want a parliament of 100 members of parliament, just ensure that out of the 100, not more than 2/3 is of the same gender. If you decide today you're going to have 500 members of parliament, at the end of the day, not more than 2/3. So this debate of taxpayers, Punda Amechoka, it's just sideshows.
All right, you know, let's go back there.
Yes.
Run.
Okay, my name is Amran Wardere from Isiolo County. I am proposing this 2/3 gender bill because personally coming from a patriarchal community where women are seen to be less than men, and where women are portrayed to be lesser than men, I believe that a fair share in the distribution of political slots will help us and eradicate the historical injustices and societal norms that prevents and undermines women when it comes to going for elective posts and going for appointive positions.
Thank you, Amran. Margaret Murage. My name is Margaret Murage. I propose this bill. First and foremost is because this bill is only set up for only 20 years. It's going to create a momentum to elect women and neutralize the injustices we face and the patriarchal nature we have in our country and culture which believes women are lesser. And let's not forget, when a woman rises in power, her energy is magnetic and her success is contagious. That's why when the last 5 years we had affirmative seats, we produced senators like Kihika, whom we didn't have, 3 governors, which was quite amazing, and a bigger number of women in parliament. We only knew people like Millie and a few others. And I believe since a woman is a full circle, she has the power to create, nurture, and transform. When more women are elected in the positions, I believe we're going to transform even these unfair practices we have during elections, these social evils of corruption we are unable to solve, since women are caring, they are nurturing, and they have the issues of everybody at heart, since women were created being soft and caring. Thank you.
Mpole lakini anatoa point kweli. Hebu mpigeni makofi. Mheshimiwa Shamali.
Thank you. My question is directed to Honorable Millie Gesa. I'm concerned, and I ask this question tonight. Are we abetting a nation of anarchy and lawlessness? And the reason is because in this 1 week, I have seen police officers being attacked on 2 different incidences, traffic police officers by the public. And I've asked myself, we're not these are not ragtag militias. These are police officers of a civilized democratic state. And now we have it. It's very clear in our constitution what the principles are with regards to this debate we are having. But we are ready to throw everything out, and are we saying we have no respect for the rule of law? Is this what is happening to Kenya today?
Honorable Millie.
Thank you. I'd want to agree very largely with Jennifer. First of all, I would say, really, I didn't see the second one, but I saw one where a gentleman was actually fighting a policeman, and I was horrified. I know a lot of times the police think we don't support them, but I think when we get into that level, it's not really correct that you take the law in your own hands and fight a police who is the symbol of authority. But I remember just yesterday, I came this morning from Subanot, and I was engaging with the police and the security team, especially on the issue of border that is creating a lot of problems all over the country. And they were saying, but we have strict laws that must be followed. But then the border people are also challenging. They are saying, but even if you have the strict laws, but there are some that are not being followed, including the gender one. So we are giving the country very mixed signals. We are telling them it's okay to violate some and to follow some. They will not follow you. They'll tell you if it is easy to bend, then also bend for us these traffic ones. Because if at the constitutional level we can bend the gender one, then why are we being so hard on a border person just because he does not have a reflector, which is a lower piece of legislation, and we are violating a constitutional provision. If we want to be a country of law-abiding citizens, then we need to start abiding at the constitutional level. So it's not just about an issue of, following the Constitution, but also inculcating a culture of respecting the Constitution.
All right. So one more question that I have had asked out here, and like I said, tonight is the night to clear all these issues that I've had people say. That fine, we can agree we are going to nominate the women. who is going to nominate them? Someone said it probably will be some men sitting in a room somewhere and saying, tukiangalia huko, this is the right one, this is the right one. So that at the end of the day, it might not be the kind of women that would do the things that we think extra women would do in parliament, but rather it will be women who are chosen for whatever reason by those people who are going to be there. And that is based on the experience that has been there of the nominations that we have seen so far. Is that a fair charge, Senator Kihika?
Joe, I actually believe it's a very unfair charge. And the reason that I say it's an unfair charge, like we said before, it seems women, we have a different way of looking at women versus men. We don't hear that same argument when we hear about nominated men. But back to the women, you know, we can look at the history that we've had that has gotten us to this point. We talked a little bit here about our colleague here, Honorable Millie. She was once nominated, now she is elected by the people, and she has done so much work as a legislator. Okay, that's Millie. In the Senate, I can talk about the Deputy Majority Leader, who is Fatuma Dulo from Isiolo. And we've had ladies here talk about how it's extremely difficult to get women elected in those areas. Fatuma Dulo was previously nominated as a senator, and now she was elected as one of only 3 elected women senators. So clearly, we do have women who are nominated, who are of quality, and who the people then believe should be able to be voted in and represent them. Back to Sophia as well. Sophia Abdi was once nominated, now elected in that very difficult community as far as women elections. We have Lesuda in the Samburu community. We have Sarah. We have Leshomo. So we see a lot of examples. In my own county, Nakuru County, we have Honorable Lisa Chelule, who is the women rep. She was previously nominated as a nominated senator in the last term, and now she is elected in Nakuru County, a very cosmopolitan county, as the women rep. We also have Honorable Wangari, who was previously nominated as a senator in the last term, but now is elected as a single constituency MP in Gilgil, Nakuru County. So I can give you endless examples of the kind of quality that we have of these nominated women, that in the end people also see the kind of work they're doing, and so they have promoted them actually by voting them in to go represent them. I do not believe they would be voting them back in to represent them if they were not of good, if their work was not of good quality.
So yes, Mheshimiwa Kirichi, what is it then that these women do not initially have that they get when they get nominated, and now they can get elected? Because that's the opportunity
Joe,
to do what?
I said it's an
because
opportunity.
They might still be subjected to the violence and to the abuse that you talked about. What changes?
Joe, for example, when I did not even before I vied or before I had even the chance to do it, first, I had to be elected somewhere, like in the church, so that I would hold a microphone and talk to the people. And I would always get a chance to speak to the people because I'm one of the leaders. So if, for example, we go to any meeting as politicians, the nominated ones are equally given a chance to speak to the people the same way we do. That's how they express themselves, and also they get a chance even to be able to maybe at least get something. Like now, for example, we are distributing sanitary towels around the country. So even the nominated ones will be given the chance to go and distribute. So when their community sees them, when they do some they do some legislation in Parliament, their people will notice them. But if they don't get that chance, how will they ever even be known that they can do something that can be that can be held, and they can be held accountable to what they've been doing? Also, please allow me to answer one question that you asked about the how they are going to be selected or nominated, and also about the slay queens. I want to believe everybody in this room was brought up in the village somewhere. And they went to school, and after going to school, we came to town because maybe after we came to university, we came to work or whatever. So I don't know how who is giving this definition of a slave queen and loiterers of the city. This thing, I don't think it is really unfortunate that we have people that can say such things, especially people who are even claiming to be doctors. I am so sorry that Kenyans can be led even to believe that there will be a problem. First, enact. There were 48 legislations, that were supposed to be enacted after the 2010 constitution. We have done 47. This one that is gender, and because it's a women that has disadvantaged not to be in it, it's a problem. But if it was the men, my friend Joe, I am sure it would already have been done.
Teresa, before we go to the floor.
Okay, one of the proposals that we have given as FIDA, and even in the case that we've had in court, is that get the next best winner. So if, for example, in Nakuru County, it was a gentleman who won, and the second person who didn't win is a woman, when it comes to nomination, IEBC should be able to provide that list and say these were the second best winners. So you see, that's also one formula. But that's just one example. We can come up with a legislation and say the ones who will be nominated as women need to have this qualification. And I don't think there's a qualification in Kenya that no woman has. So, and you remember there was even a time we were challenged and said, women do not want to come up to be even appointed, in public offices. And we said, we have a list. We have a list. How many women do you want? We will give you. So there's this assumption that the society is being given that we don't even have a basket of these women who are qualified. It's kind of like there are so many women out there who are not qualified. There's a whole lot of women in this country who are qualified, and there are different methodologies.
Let's get one last round of questions, then we can come back.
Dafin kidogo anaona kile ambacho umesema lazima ajibu.
I beg to disagree with you on that. When you say we take the second best winners as a criteria to nominate women, what happens? I stand to vie, she stands to vie, but I'm not voted on the fact that I have a bad record or people don't love me. Then that underscores that criteria. I think it is your duty to come with a better criteria, but on the second best winner, some are not elected on the virtue that they're looked under the microscope and they don't meet the threshold to be a leader.
Joe, I need to clarify on the issue of the second best winner. Like when you go for elections, I'm talking about you've gone for elections, and whatever constituency, for whatever reason, the winner is a David somewhere with 100 votes. And the second best, which we have seen in this country, is a woman candidate who probably got 80-something, 85. So we are saying, instead of going out to say, okay, let's start afresh, let's have parties. The political parties already have women who they had given in their list at IBC when they went for elections. So start from those ones who have already come up. But that's just a proposal. It's not that it must be the only way of getting nominated women, because we want to do away with this aspect of they shall just be picking of women from everywhere. No, it will be women who have brought themselves out for elections, who are qualified, and they meet the criteria that is also provided in the Constitution.
But I think what Dafin is saying is that it's not just about the second person is a woman and she has qualified, that if the people look and say, this woman does not have the qualities we want, then that criteria would not work. In that sense,
it's
would
not
you
about
then nominate
that we've
someone?
rejected this person and we're nominating them.
No, I think it's not.
Rejected the person with 85,000 votes.
That's what I'm saying.
That is a good rejection. That's basically what she's saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There must be a good rejection of 85,000.
Yeah,
that's a good rejection.
It's a good number. Imagine
okay,
a
this
woman.
is obviously a debate that can go on for a while.
No, but
so
just Joe, one last thing. I'm saying, imagine women who have actually gone through campaign, they've gone through the violence, they've gone through all that, and they've made it to the last point, and they got elected. Even if they got 2 votes, they've worked so hard through the process. They have been gone through the criteria of IBC. So we are saying there will be a pot for you to pick from. So it won't be this idea that we are being given that it will just be people picking whoever they are picking, their sisters or their aunties. No, there will be a criteria.
Joe, can I just say something about that? Yeah. I think we are also forgetting that we are also parliamentarians.
Yeah.
The Constitution provides the broad principles and framework, But then it is up to us as parliamentarians to provide a criteria. And when that time comes, we will look at all options. Maybe there's a wonderful option amongst all the people here and some, even the people who are not here, that we have not heard about. So somebody has some brilliant idea somewhere that we can put into that law, which then comes after the passage of the constitutional one.
Okay,
but I
great.
don't think we can run
Great.
out
At
of
least
ideas.
It's a good thing that
of
that kind of debate will happen at a certain
Yes.
point.
Tutamaliza na Charlene.
Hello. Yeah, my name is Charlene Grace Wamboy. I come from Murang'a County. And when I look at the women around here, I see fighters. And when people say that women are weaklings, I beg to differ with them totally. Because we've seen women who have brought themselves up and they've contested. Some of them have failed and some of them have gotten the seats. I'll take an example of Nyeri County. When people say that women don't come out and vie, an example is Nyeri County, where in each and every ward, there was a woman contestant, either in an MCA, MP, or any other post. But they did not get the chance to get that docket or, that docket. And if the only way that we can get to have these women show themselves up is only by nomination, then why don't we do it? Because we've seen other women who have undergone the same procedure of nomination, who they have come out right now, they've vied for seats and they have gotten it. If only nomination is the only way to unleash the potential of women in this country, if it's the only way to unlock the potential of women in this country, why don't we give it a chance? Because we've seen the people that have given nominations earlier, they've not failed us. They went to parliament, they did this and that have actually gotten us leaders like you, who we are very proud of. And if it's the only way that we are going to get more representation as women in this country, then I say we go for it. I'm proposing that bill. Thank you so much.
Huyu nadhani muongeze kwa bunge aweze kutoa kauli zake jinsi alivyotoa. Nadhani ni jambo ambalo mnaweza kuliangalia. Lakini Millicent Morgan ambaye ni MCA wa kuteuliwa kutoka kaunti ya Tharaka Nithi anasema Kenya is not yet on top of equality. We need to nominate women to enable political patterns growth. Also, most voters are in the rural areas where women are timid, not exposed, and not empowered. When it comes to budgeting, they are not there to give their views, so most projects are male-based. Finally, gender is not women. Soon, the boy child will need this bill. Joe, I think you'll need this bill.
All right, which is why at this point I'm going to give each of you ladies about a minute to make your best pitch, because we're ending this show.
Sure.
To make your best pitch about why on Wednesday all those people in Parliament, men and women, should vote for this Duale 2 bill, as I have been informed it is now known. So shall we just start in that order? We start from Honorable Nyokabi and all the way up here.
Let me urge the parliamentarians to really pass this bill. The issues of nomination will have to be addressed in a subsequent legislation. At the Gender Commission, we've seen that abuse. 17 counties did not nominate persons with disability, even though the slots are there in the MCA categories. And so there needs to be protection of these seats. But first, you create the space, and then you protect the space that you have created. And really, to continue emphasizing that men and women in leadership of our country would take us much further. It's a twin-engine plane. If the plane moves with one engine, we are never going to get the speed that we need when talent like the one here and the one seated here, if all this talent is not in development, then we are never going to get our development. So wajumbe wote tafadhali, we need their votes. And people should not abscond. Another bad behavior of our men is absconding from parliament. You better even come and be counted. They must not escape from the floor of the house, because that is a constitutional duty.
It's called
that they
rejecting
have.
bills by not showing up.
By not showing up, yeah.
I may not put my best pitch, but I would want to respond to something that you said about how come does the equation change when you are nominated? Does the violence stop when you are nominated? Or how come do we make it after you are nominated? I will give you from my own personal experience that when I was nominated, the country and my constituency was able to see my best from a safe zone where nobody is fighting me. They were able to see that we have an excellent legislator. But if I had gone direct, I would have been beaten, My bodyguard would have been killed the way he was killed this time. My house would have been burnt the way it was burnt this time, and I would not have had the strength to go through that. But because I was able to do that within a safe space, then I was able to now go and fight it out. It's still not an even platform. We don't normally fight as women. We don't use those tactics that men use. It is still not even, and I therefore want to encourage our brothers, our brothers in Parliament, that it is not about fighting you. Today you may be in Parliament. Next time it may be your daughter, it may be your sister, it may be any of your female relatives. It's not about us. And I'm sure your daughter is not a slave queen, neither is your mother. So please support us.
I'd actually just speak from where Nyokabi and also Honorable Millie have left. Let's have our parliamentarians show up for women who voted for them, show up for their sisters, their daughters. And it's not important that we identify ourselves by our female fraternity to them, but we are human beings who are related to them, and we voted for them. So let them just stand up for the women and girls of Kenya.
Yes, thank you. I want to say to all Kenyans that once or twice or any time, as parents, as sisters, as brothers, we have actually encouraged our children, our aunties, whoever it is, to go for what they want in school or in any field. And mostly, we don't do it, we do it because they are our relatives. But when I look at it from that point of view, we are all advocates of gender. It doesn't matter what gender. So what I want to ask all Kenyans and plead with them, to tell their MPs, members of parliament, to come to the house and vote and be counted among the people that made change in this country. I want to also demystify the fact that people have gone round and said that members of parliament and legislature takes a lot of money and we are overrepresented. There's so much money being used in parliament. They must know that the total budget of this country is 3.2 trillion. And even if we scrapped Senate and Parliament, the entire legislature, we will still have to pay have a 3.1 trillion budget being done. That means Parliament is taking so little. Let us sit down, sit back, think where we went wrong. And I'm looking at public service where we have a 1.5 trillion as a recurrent budget, so that our Kenyans will know that Parliament takes literally almost nothing, 1%. It's not so much to ask. Let them vote. Let us give a chance to our children who may never have gotten up there. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Keiko.
Thank you very much. And also, let me also, as the last one here speaking, also say thank you very much to the participants and for those questions that you brought forward. And as we move along, we shall take that with us, the issues that were raised. So as we approach Wednesday, I am hopeful and I am prayerful and I am hoping that the members of the National Assembly will vote to pass this 2/3 gender bill. I'm sure also once it's passed and it comes to the Senate, as the chief whip, majority whip of the Senate, I am hopeful too that it will pass there, and the response has been very positive. Under Article 27 of the Constitution, there is the principles of equality and non-discrimination, and we know for a long time there has been a lot of discrimination to the female gender of this country. So this bill really is just trying to right a wrong. Yeah, and to also just make sure that the Constitution is itself implemented. So I would urge the members of the National Assembly, especially those who are hesitant on voting for this bill, who have maybe on one hand stated that it will add too much to the wage bill. Like we've had the numbers, really it will add 0.009%. It's negligible. At this point in time, we would require 22 women in the National Assembly. But given the numbers from between the last parliament and this one, there were 16 MPs from the constituencies last time. Now we have 23. So I'm even hopeful we might even have 30 the next time around, so that we may not even need to nominate 22. In the Senate, we only need 2 more. In the last parliament, there was 0
elected senators, women. This time around, we have 3. So we may even have 5 or 7 or even 8. So we may not even need to go that route. But the bill is very important so that we comply with the Constitution. We are a country that follows the law, believes in the law, and as legislators, that is important. So I urge and I ask you all to also help us by maybe texting your members of the National Assembly and asking them, like we stood up for them and with them during the elections in 2017, if they could now stand up and be with us and be counted as they support the women, or rather at this point in time, it's the women of this country who are 52%, by the way. So thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Senator Kihika, Member of Parliament, Wangoye Gishiri. We have Teresia Gerichi, sorry. We have Teresia Omondi from FIDA. We have Millie Odhiambo, who is MP for Suba North, and of course Priscilla Nyokavi used to be the member county MP for Nyeri. Thank you very much, ladies, and of course the wonderful audience here. My name is Joe Agayo. It's been lovely being here, and we'll be back next week on Monday with another show just like this one. And my colleague somewhere in the crowd, Mashirima.
I'm right here, Joe, sijajificha sana, lakini pia nashukuru kwa watu ambao wameshiriki, waliotuma jumbe, na nadhani tumepata kujua kuhusiana na mswada huu wa thuluthi mbili, na pia tumeona kuwa kuna wanawake wengi hapa watakuwa wabunge, hata iwapo huo mswada hautapita. Ukipita usipite, wako wengi hapa ambao wanaweza kupata nafasi hizo. Naitwa Mashirima Kapombe na kutakia usiku mwema.